The threat in Jammu and Kashmir at the line of control and even in the depth areas in times to come has increased manifold. Now take a look at some of the weapons that terrorists now have access to. Remember, earlier it used to be the AK-47 assault rifles. Now there's also the M16. So they have American rifles, better firing, better accuracy, better range. And that's just one system. Let's talk about the carbines. Yes, they had access to some carbines. For example, they had the M4 carbines, but now it moves beyond the M4s. It's now the M4A1. So again, they have better firepower and better accuracy in acquiring targets, and this time in the line of fire is actually India. Move on. We'll talk about 6 systems on this broadcast. For example, earlier the Taliban were dependent or terrorists were dependent, whether it's Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed, they were dependent on the Pakistan army for movement. Now they have access to armored fighting vehicles left behind by the Americans and the Afghan National Army. So they've better mobility and safer mobility. Let's move on. Earlier, terrorists did not have access to sniper rifles. Now they have the M24 sniper rifles, and this gives them not just sniper capability but also longer range. They can remain hidden and target security forces at the line of control and even in depth areas. Apart from sniper rifles, what they also now have access to is bulletproof jackets, lighter, better American bulletproof jackets. But the real game changer along with the weapons would be night fighting capabilities. Now this is what terrorists did not have earlier. Now they have access to hundreds of night vision devices left behind by the Americans, and these night vision devices of the Afghan National Army will be used by terrorists. So again, the threat increases manifold at the line of control and in the depth areas. Night fighting capabilities that terrorists are now acquiring. The threat is real. The threat is getting closer. 2 men who've served in Afghanistan and know this entire region join me on India First. Ambassador Amar Sinha, our former ambassador to Afghanistan, also former secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, and Major General Sanjay Meston, our former defense attaché in Afghanistan. Ambassador Sinha, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar led a 9-member Taliban delegation to meet Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi at Tianjin. China's main concern, we are told, was to ensure that Taliban do not permit the East Turkestan Islamic Movement, the ETIM fighters, to use Afghan territory to target Xinjiang. In your appreciation, should that also be India's approach? Engage with the Taliban to ensure Afghan territory or their terrorists or these weapons are not used against India?
Get off. Get me unmute myself.
Yes.
Yes, they did go there. I don't know whether they went on their own accord or they went at the prompting of Mr. Qureshi, Foreign Minister of Pakistan, who obviously had to rush to China soon following in the footsteps of DG ISI after the Dasu Dam attack. So obviously Taliban entire leadership was called to give them and reiterate the assurances that China will not be attacked. While we can, of course, seek these assurances from Taliban, but we have to remember that Taliban will be much freer to assure Russia and China and other countries, basically because these assurances do not conflict with Pakistan's objectives. Now, those assurances coming for India would be harder for Taliban to implement. So we will have to take it with a pinch of salt. But I was watching the video that you showed before of the weapons. You know, please remember that China has been collecting every fragment of bombs, artillery, weapons, down to drones, down to helicopters from Taliban as well as Pakistan for reverse engineering. So that is a bigger threat because China is trying to understand what this new technology that US has inducted, and they are going to re-engineer this in China. And that, I think, is a more sustained and a long-term threat to us. And we have to be very conscious of that. And perhaps that also could be a reason for the Taliban to visit China. So there are many layers.
Yes.
And one could analyze it in different sort of at different aspects and perspectives.
Yes.
But I would leave it at that, that they have gone at the behest of Pakistanis precisely 7 days before they took over or started taking over provinces. But they have gone to reassure that Dasu Dam was not their act, and they are going to help China in protecting their assets in Pakistan.
Okay, General Meston, will Taliban cut off ties with ETIM for China's support and funds, or will ETIM, the East Turkestan Islamic Movement, remain a threat in Xinjiang? And I believe there is a 75 or an 80 kilometer long border which China is very, very apprehensive about.
I think the threat to China will remain from ETIM, and perhaps they will not be able to control ETIM, the Taliban, and even the Pakistanis. Because let's look at the larger game plan. The larger game plan is, I would put it, who all are on board with Taliban. I think the first country to be board on Taliban was the United States. Since 2018, President Trump had started the talks. So since they were on board, and thereafter they also gave directive to Pakistan to release Mullah Baradar.
Yes.
So therefore, the whole initiative has been taken at the behest of the United States, a country which has been there since 2001. It is now leaving. I'm quite sure they are ready to take on some strategic losses or some short-term losses for long-term strategic objectives.
Very interesting.
My take on this is perhaps that since Taliban has to be also funded, and let me tell you, everyone knows in the world that the leverage with Pakistan, with the Taliban, was always controlled by Pakistan. I think the Americans have also learned that now they have to start controlling these so-called assets and use them to their advantage.
Okay.
Now, if you recollect, there was the incident, Salalah incident, which happened in, it is also referred to as 26/11 incident.
Yes.
Where the Americans had attacked two Pakistani posts, where 28 soldiers of the Pakistan army were killed. And thereafter, Americans had to face a lot of problems in terms of their logistics, because their logistics was through Pakistan. And that is the time when the Pakistanis refused to give them the logistics roads, etc. And therefore, for up to July 2012, this logistics.
What you're hinting at, General, is that
I'm coming on.
No,
just give me
very
one
pertinent point you're making is that Pakistan's troubles may just increase in times to come, and there is another aspect to it. I want to draw your attention to that other aspect about the Durand line. General, about the Durand line. Will the Durand line now be? It has been a bone of contention, but will the Durand line reignite the call for Pashtunistan? Take a look at this.
Absolutely.
Take a look at this. Take a look at this report. Pakistan may be celebrating Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, but is Islamabad celebrating a bit too soon? Will the Durand line, the line that divides Pakistan and Afghanistan, the biggest contentious issue between the two countries, actually come back to haunt the establishment in Pakistan? What is the Durand line? The Durand line divides the Pashtun belt, or the two countries. It divides Afghanistan and Pakistan. The line was drawn in 1893 by a British civil servant, Sir Henry Mortimer Durand. It is argued with the consent of the Amir of Afghanistan, Abdur Rahman. This line is about 2,500 or 2,670 to be precise kilometers long. It's extremely contentious. The Pathans, the Pashtuns, are now divided on either side of the Durand line. About 40 to 45 million population. It's now on the either side of the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. Pashtuns on either side actually want a united Pashtunistan that extends virtually from the south of Kabul all the way through Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or the northwest frontier provinces, including parts of Balochistan, up to Pakistan's Punjab province. And there is a rising clamor for Pashtunistan. Quite a bit in Pakistan, also in Afghanistan. In fact, you know, the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement that's gaining ground in Pakistan, and it's actually being put down very, very hard by Pakistan's army. Incidentally, Amrullah Saleh, the current caretaker president of Afghanistan, in the past, he's said no leader in Afghanistan, you know, be it a democratically elected leader or even the Taliban, and this is where it becomes extremely interesting. No leader in Afghanistan can ignore the demand of the Pashtuns or accept the Durand Line. And that is where this becomes very tricky for the Taliban leadership in Afghanistan and for Pakistan that's actually nurtured and launched the Taliban. Peshawar was the winter capital of Afghanistan. So what will Taliban do? Not just Taliban as an entity, but elements within the Taliban. For example, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Will they accept the Durand Line, or will they fight with Pakistan Army for Pashtunistan? And they have done so in the past. Pakistan Army, in fact, is desperately rushing to complete fencing this entire Afghanistan-Pakistan border. So about almost the entire 2,600 odd kilometers has been completed. That fencing is on, but will Taliban accept this, or will Taliban actually now give trouble to Pakistan Army, and this demand for Pashtunistan, will that only increase in times to come? Ambassador Sinha, 5,000 Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Islamic State terrorists released from different prisons in Afghanistan, Kandahar, Bagram, Kabul. Will TTP work against Pakistan? Will TTP listen to the main Taliban? What do you foresee happening?
I don't think they will listen to anybody. Like Taliban is not listening to anybody today, including the people who actually brought them to the position they are. Because TTP is a product. And you have to go back in history, really. No, China is worried about ATIM. How did ATIM come about? In 1997, when political Islam and radical Islam were supported by many forces and many countries, including China. So this was the blowback. How did TTP come about? Then China gets worried. There's an attack on Red Mosque in Islamabad. It leans on Pakistan to crack down. Pakistan does that. In Fatah region, you have TTP, which is now attacking Pakistan. On the Durand Line, the fact is that Pakistan administration has reached out to Taliban even in Doha about Durand Line. And the information that I have, that they told Pakistanis that you please get it approved by the Ghani government, and then we will not change it, because they said that our support base extends beyond Afghanistan into the Fatah region. And today, when we are in Doha, we cannot accept it. And this is a fact, that whether it is PTM, Taliban, TTP, or any government, accepting this fact that Durand Line is the international border is not acceptable. And worst is, this is not even acceptable to other non-Pashtuns Afghans, because they are also united as far as this British inheritance of Pakistan, which Pakistan is claiming to be as the border. Everybody in Afghanistan rejects it. Okay. And that's a reality, and Pakistan will have to live with it.
It's a reality that Pakistan will have to live with, but an emboldened Taliban with all these modern American weapons and systems and drones, General Meston, will Durand Line actually be more trouble? Because Pakistan is fencing this and the 2 layers of fencing. Will that help? Because Taliban right now, you know, is being told do not target Chinese interests in Pakistan or Pakistani forces. But will they listen once in power?
Yeah, so what I was even highlighting previously, and I'll just complete it. So the American strategic aim, perhaps, I feel, would be to use Taliban not to their advantage, because the entire funding of Taliban or this new state is going to be dependent on the American funding. So therefore, what control was retained by Pakistan earlier of Taliban now is going to the American hands. So therefore, how will America use them? I'm quite sure they will use them maybe against Russia, maybe against China, maybe Iran, and maybe now more likely towards Pakistan. Because all said and done, you pick up any book or analysis written by any American or even UK or everyone, the world realizes that the root cause of all problem is Pakistan. So therefore, perhaps this also could be a strategy to start targeting Pakistan, and the issue of Durand Line now will be revived. If you remember King Daud Khan,
Yes.
he had stated very clearly for a greater Pashtunistan.
Yes.
That is how the SAR revolution happened, and he was assassinated. So what I'm trying to highlight is Pakistan's biggest fear is Durand Line.
Absolutely.
It has already,
You've
yeah.
hit the nail
So
on its
this is
head.
where-
Pakistan's biggest fears may just come alive now, or is that wishful thinking by some? Because Ambassador Sinha, even Amrullah Saleh had said no leader in Afghanistan will or can accept Durand Line and live. So will Taliban leadership be any different? You know, whether it's an elected leadership or an enforced leadership, what happens to the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement in your view now, sir?
I think he's absolutely right, and that's what I said before, that no leadership in Afghanistan, whatever be its ethnicity, will be able to accept Durand Line. And you know, there's a saying that Afghanistan extends from Amu Darya to Attock. Attock is on Indus River. So now that is a real challenge to Pakistanis. And why do you think in the last 2 years they have fenced it? Because they wanted that before the Americans left, they did two things at least. One is, of course, to get Taliban to power in Kabul, which has happened. And second was to formalize the Durand Line, which has been a bone of contention and disputed since it was there and since Pakistan independence. So in many ways, Gaurav, you have to understand that Pakistan, when Imran Khan said that Afghans have broken the chains of slavery, my own feeling is that it's the Pakistan which has been able to unshackle the chains of the British colonial policies, whether it was on Durand Line, whether it was on divide and rule policy, whether it was on the use of mullahs against normal, strong Afghan government. These were all British policies which Pakistanis have inherited, mastered, and they are practicing till today. And in fact, so Mr. Imran Khan really has to see and reflect whether it is them who have to get out of the British colonial slavery or it's the Taliban.
Because
so
there
I
is some
find it
analysis-
very ironical and amusing,
Yes.
actually.
Yes, because, you know, when you read some of the analysis in Pakistani media, there is panic. There is panic that things will not go in their favor and Taliban will not listen to them, and Taliban, and especially Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, may just harm them. But let me now widen the scope. So China's thinking about East Turkestan Islamic movement. Pakistan is worried about TTP and other terrorists. How real and how imminent, General Meston, is the threat to India at the line of control with these weapons reaching Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed?
Oh, I would like to answer the question. One is I would give you a short-term perspective and a long-term perspective. Now, short-term perspective is, firstly, what are the factors we have to analyze? One of the biggest factors is what, till the time the government is not formed, and I think about 6 months it will take. You know, there's a lot of going to be large number of issues. So let's assume it takes about 6 months. First and foremost, it has to consolidate its power, and therefore it has to use some foot soldiers to consolidate its power and suppress these rebellions or wherever it is happening. Now, once this is happening, once this has happened, these assets, now I'll tell you what are the assets. Firstly, what happens to the Afghan National Army during Taliban's rule? Where do they go? Do they get demobilized? If they get demobilized, what happens about the National Defense Security, the National Directorate of Security? What happens to them? Anyway, I'm now from military perspective, I will now talk about the army. Where do they go? What does the Taliban do? It's about 75,000 to 1 lakh cadres. What happens to them? Does a system of DDR, that is disarmament, demobilization and reintegration them, is it possible? I would say no, because assets of these Taliban,
Yes.
the fighters will have to be used by them. Now, rightfully brought out by Ambassador Sinha, so many prisoners have been released. They are also available. Foreign fighters, about 4,000 to 6,000 foreign fighters are there, and God knows who's controlling them. Russians may be controlling, China may be controlling, Turkmenistan may be controlling. So there is a khichdi, I would say.
And this
Now,
khichdi is
Mr.
something
Omika-
which, for I've run out of time on this part of the show, General, but we will continue to discuss what's happening in Afghanistan and its impact on the region. But for the moment, Ambassador Sinha and General Mishran, many thanks for joining me.